Give us just a moment, folks. It's recording. Okay, never mind. We've had our moment. Actually, hopefully I'm about to have my moment, or at least one of several I hope to be having. Okay, there we go. Lean into the mic, into the mic. Stage steps. If you've never taken a stage class, they tell you all kinds of fun stuff, you know. Lean into the mic. That's a little too far into the mic. Okay. For those of you that kind of missed the intro or didn't see me last week, hi, I am the comic relief tonight. That's going to end up being a true statement because I am a comic and either you're going to laugh and I'm going to be relieved or I will eventually shut up and y'all will be relieved. I'm just kind of rambling. This is early in my career, so kind of, you know, remember the name. You may hear it later or you may not ever hear it again. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm kind of taking Robin Williams as one of my inspirations. Robin never works with a set. Robin also doesn't own a fucking off switch. Anybody that's ever seen his stand-up knows this. He comes out and he just opens his mouth for the next 60 minutes while the audience dies laughing. I am so jealous. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that. But, you know, in the meantime, I'll just sell for what I've got. So, a little bit of topical stuff. We have a new pope. And before anyone goes, oh God, he's going to bash Catholics. Just so you know, my mother and both of my in-laws are all lapsed Catholics. So, de facto, I'm kind of well, you can't call me lapsed because I've never been in a church, but if I had ever been in a church, I would have lapsed by now. So we have a new pope. He's taken the name Francis, so which is probably his way of telling the world, hi, I would like to be completely frank with you. Actually, we've decided we like this one. We're not so fond of Benedict. As somebody sang when he first took office, he's Benedict to you, he's Benedict to me, he's Benedict to everybody that you've ever seen. My mom habitually refers to that one as the Nazi. She's the one that, you know, you would think, me being the geek in the family, I would be the one who have pointed these out to her. No, she's the one that started finding the stuff online where people were noticing that Benedict in papal garb bears a striking resemblance to Emperor Palpatine. I find your lack of faith disturbing. So, you know, for once the nerdery came from her and went my direction. That's usually the other way around. I'm a massive freaking geek. My mother has actually sat there and said, you know, I have learned more about quantum physics and warp drive just sitting there listening to you rattle on about your favorite television. Warp drive, of course, brings up Star Trek. That's always been a favorite of mine. I grew up on Star Trek. The one I always wanted to see on Star Trek Next Generation. Commander Wolf, fire at will. Just Captain. Oh God, I'm sorry, number one. Wolf, what were you thinking? Okay, true nerds will get that one. Number one, William T. Riker will. Okay, if you have to explain it, it wasn't that good again. Let's shut up. This has been my curse forever and a day. I just recently got into stand-up because heretofore, every time I stood up, they told me to sit down and shut up. But, so I figured, what the heck, I'm 40, buck the system. So, let's see, next thing. There's gotta be a next thing, there's always a next thing. Other bits of nerdery I love Doctor Who. Those of you that were here earlier got to inadvertently and accidentally hear my ringtone in the middle of our lovely hostess's set. I was standing up here signing up and my brother phoned. And guess what my ringtone is? And I had not realized I hadn't muted my phone yet. So I think it actually got picked up on the mic in the middle of one of her songs. I've already apologized to her.
I thought I was hallucinating.
No, the drugs aren't that good. You know, that's something I've noticed is, you know, everything changes by generation and by decade. In the late 50s, the drug of choice was the demon weed marijuana. In the late 60s, well, no, excuse me. In the late 60s, it was still demon weed marijuana, but we had found a new friend. Lysergic acid diethylamide 25, more commonly known as our buddy Sid. In the late 70s, for those of you that remember disco, it was cocaine. In the late 80s, it was crack, the bastard child of cocaine. Now, it's caffeine. And may I introduce you to Sean in the back? He's our favorite dealer. We like him. But, you know, things change. Times change and we change with them. The Romans actually used to say that, how does it goes? Tempus mutandus, nos mutandum. The time changes, we change with it. Everything changes. A funnier comic than I'll probably ever hope to be, Mort Saul, once made the comment that in the 1940s to get a chick you had to be a GI. In the 1950s, you had to be Jewish. In the 1960s, you had to be black. In the 1970s, to get a chick, you had to be a chick. Okay, for those of you that haven't noticed, is anyone else as annoyed with the Darth Vader breathing thing I seem to be having with the mic tonight? Luke, I am your father. No! Oh, and by the way, you kissed your sister. I actually saw a funny one of the Darth Vader, Luke, I am your father thing. Back around November of last year, somebody whopped one out there. Luke, I know what you got me for Christmas. How? I felt your presence. Okay, Nerdery 104. Yes, I'm keeping track of these guys. I'm keeping count of the nerd count. Yeah, I know. The nerdery gets thick and deep around here. Anybody that's a true sci-fi nerd knows what I'm talking about if I say crossover fiction. Those little fan-written stories where people from whole different universes get the chance to play together. One of my all-time favorites, because I really did, I always go back to Star Trek and Doctor Who. Those were my first two loves. There's actually a novel out there, How Much for Just the Planet? It's a Star Trek novel. At one point, Scotty, per usual, is buried under the transporter trying to fix it. Scotty, have you repaired the transporter yet? Captain, I was just about to give it a field test. Give me a moment, let me power it up.
Doctor.
Excuse me, is this Heathrow? Brother, did you take a wrong turn? Amazingly, that's actually funnier in print and it takes twice as long to read as it just took me to say it. Okay, note to self, do not use literary humor. They're smart enough to get it, it's just not funny. I actually have been playing with the idea of various contingency lines. You know, every good comedian has their set pieces, their standard greeting. I think I'm going to go with the comic relief one for a while. That one seems to be working. I also considered a variation on me. What is this? What is that? Who the fuck are y'all? Wait a minute, y'all are the audience. Okay, so I should stop cussing at the audience. Okay. We're trying to make friends here, John Michael. Be nice. That's what I have to be. It's never any fun. And for those of you that had any remaining shreds of ideas that I might be anything resembling normal, a friend of mine asked me how normal I was. I looked at him funny. I said, I'll put it to you this way. I've said for years, if I ever win the big gajillion-dollar lotto and get to build my dream house, it's going to make the Adams Family Mansion look like a suburban split level. The contractors are going to be sworn to secrecy. I don't plan to actually do anything evil with it. I just kind of like the idea of having a really strange house, a house with secrets. You know, I may not want people to know what way you go to get to my private bathroom. Where's the bathroom? You go down the hall, you see the cherub little thing, yeah, you press his belly button, a panel about this tall will click open in the wall. You go in there, you take the hallway, then it's 2 turns, a left turn, pull the chandelier, the trap door will drop you right in the bathtub. house I want to live in. I want to live in a crazy house. I've had a small bit of success with that. I'm a little bit morbid. I used to be an undertaker, and that was quite an undertaking. It was a very brave profession. It kind of explains my sense of humor. Anybody that's ever actually met morticians that are off duty and made friends with them, the line of work being what it is, you learn to develop a really throwed off sense of humor just to survive. So anybody that's ever held the job, you can be guaranteed that they've got some bizarre crap running around in the back of their head that's making them giggle internally. I used to have a casket for a coffee table. Guys, I gotta tell you, that thing was great for getting rid of unwanted overnight guests. Hey, you mind if I stay the night? Sure, let me take the lid off the coffee table. I'll throw you a blanket and a pillow in there. Sorry, it's the only place I've got to put you. On second thought, I think I'll call a cab. I also, for a while, used to have as a daily driver, I went and bought a 1974 Cadillac hearse. That thing was a trip. It was not black, it was not white, it was green. It was the only green hearse registered in the entire freaking county I lived in. 3 things I learned very quickly about driving a hearse for pleasure. When you get on the highway, nobody cuts you off. Nobody tailgates you, ever. And unless you just strapped wings to the motherfucker and are flying low without a license, the cops ignore you. They assume that you're probably in service, and if you're in that big a hurry, they'd really rather not know why. That was also a great one for shucking off the can-yous. Nobody wants to ask you for a ride to work when you drive a hearse. I don't know why. I went to pick up a roommate. He called me one night. It was 2 in the morning, and he calls me. He goes, "Oh God, my car died. Can you come pick me up from work?" Now, mind you, he works at Taco Hell, or as he used to call it, Toxic Hell, run from your order. So I said, well, okay, if your boss isn't gonna freak, he says, it's either that or I'm stuck walking 5 miles to get home. Just come freaking get me, okay? I'll deal with the boss myself. Okay. So I show up, I get there, and he goes, 10 minutes after I called you, and you apparently had already left, so I couldn't get you. They asked me to stay another 2 hours. Can you just pull around back and wait for me to get off work? Sure. So I pull around back. I figure, fuck it. It's the middle of the night. I'm half asleep, so I curl up in the front seat, take a nap. He wakes me up in a few minutes, Hey, dude. Okay. Let me go home. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. He gets in, we pull out. Not 2 blocks from his work, we get pulled over by a DeSoto cop. He comes up to the door and I say, "Excuse me, officer, is there a problem this evening?" He says, I'm just kind of curious, is this the hearse that's been parked behind the Taco Bell for the past 2 hours? Yes, my roommate works there. He asked me to come pick him up from work, and I accidentally got here a couple hours early, so I just waited. Is that a problem? No, we've just gotten 7 calls from people wondering why the fuck there's a hearse behind a restaurant.
Secret ingredient.
Oh, yeah, secret ingredients. A little pinch of that. For those of you that like musicals, yes, I'm just queer enough to enjoy musicals. Sweeney Todd, try a little priest, just have a little priest. He's recently deceased, so try a little priest. God. And the ingredient is love. My wife actually has said that. Fortunately for me, she always means it ironically. I mean, she's very loving and she's a very good cook, but I don't know that I could actually live with somebody that said things like that in all seriousness. Guys, I'm about running out of time. This is wonderful. Y'all been great. Y'all actually laughed at some of my shit. This is wonderful. You've got a lovely audience. Don't fuck it up now. There's a tip bucket right there. I think it gets split between all of us. Oh, well, just tip. The sincerest applause rings on the floor or rustles in your wallet. It's called money. Please be sincere. Y'all have a great night. You've been a great audience. Thank you so much.